Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Kurt on Cougs. Loaded lineup today, super excited. We're previewing BYU men's and women's basketball, BYU men's volleyball, as well as BYU football's 2025 schedule is finalized after today. The Big 12 Conference announced when all those matchups are going to be happening, so super excited. We're going to dive in and talk about basketball first, and we are going to start off with BYU women's basketball, who plays tomorrow against UCF. So that's the way. Sorry, just got my little note card right here with all this information. So, they're playing against an 8-win UCF team tomorrow. This is a team that has really struggled just overall this season. They just last week picked up their first Big 12 win at home against Houston. Before that, 10 straight losses. This team really been struggling. Finally picked up a win. And so they'll be looking to another team that's looking back to get on the right track. Cougars coming off a win, of course, winning at Arizona State this weekend. So getting another win, just getting those 2 wins in a row would be huge for the Cougars' momentum. This is a game they are favored in by a good bit by ESPN metrics. So and now kind of looking at this game, looking at who UCF is as a team. For one thing, this team is led by Caitlin Peterson, who averages about 21 points a game, which is about 31% of UCF's total offensive production. So she's a huge part of their offense. So a big point of emphasis in this game is just simply going to be slowing her down, keeping her in check, because she's just an essential part of their offense. No one else on their team scores more than 13 a game. So ultimately, if you can stop her, then you should have a pretty good shot to win this game. And so, as well, this team also is very turnover prone. And so getting those turnovers, stopping Caitlin Peterson, a lot of this is going to come down to the defensive end for the Cougars. The Knights also haven't been very strong on defense. So this is a game I feel very confident in. And then Saturday, you're playing against one of the top teams in the conference at Baylor. This is a team that has really good offense. They know how to score in bunches. And road game. This is a team that will probably end up playing in the NCAA tournament. So really, really tough game. But this is a team I believe BYU beat last season. So maybe they can pull off a big upset. It would be huge to do so. Ultimately, for BYU women's hoops, kind of where they're at right now, they are number 13 in the conference. And so, pretty far back. So it would be good to start climbing forward, because, seeding matters quite a bit for the Big 12 tournament at the end of the season. So if you could get up even just to being the 11 or 10 seed, I think that would help in a big way, give them a much more manageable first round matchup, and give them a better shot just to make a run in the tournament. So that's where everything's at with that right now. And ultimately, my deciding factors for this week, I think, are going to be just overall limiting its second chance buckets. I think this is going to be really important. This is a BYU team that has shown they can do well in rebounding thus far, so I think that this is something that is very accomplishable for them, and something they are going to need to do if they want any shot to go 2-0 this week. And then on the offensive side of the thing, I think a deciding factor there will be just being able to limit turnovers. This is something this team has struggled with this year. So in my opinion, just limiting turnovers will play a big part in the Cougars coming out with some victories this week. And so overall, my predictions for this week, first of all, my bold prediction is I'm predicting that the Cougars will I don't know how bold this is, honestly, but I think Cougars will have at least one game this week in which they hit 12 3-pointers. They got a lot of capable shooters out there. You got players like Congdon, Gibb, Calvert can hit from 3. Barber, Whiting. You got a lot of capable three-point shooters, and this team really hasn't been elite at three-point shooting so far this year, but I think that this is the week. I think they get 12-plus threes in one of their games, and my overall predictions for games, I think they win tomorrow against UCF, and then they lose on Saturday at Baylor. I just think that one's really, really tough matchup. Baylor's a fantastic team. I don't think the Cougars are able to overcome it, but 1-1 this week still would be pretty solid. Now jumping over to BYU men's basketball. Tonight at 9 o'clock, a little bit of a late one. We got them taking on the Wildcats of Arizona, one of the hottest teams in the conference. It's fun, actually. Both teams are coming in on a 4-game win streak. So yeah, Arizona, really good team. Last week they beat their rivals, Arizona State, and then they also, earlier in the week, won a thriller against Iowa State. That was the game where Caleb Love hits a three to send the game into overtime. And that wasn't just any three. This is a half-court type shot to send the game to OT, where the Wildcats then win it. So this team, a lot of momentum, a lot of fire, really good on offense. And the one who starts it all for them is Caleb Love. Caleb Love, fantastic player that has been talked about even in conversations about who should be player of the year. So this guy, really, really talented, and yeah, a guy that BYU definitely needs to watch out for tonight. Also as well, another big strength for Arizona, especially on offense, is the fast break. They are one of the top fast break teams in the country. This is a team that if you give them a chance to run with it, they can really make you pay. So that's going to be a really important thing for BYU to guard against if they're going to have a shot in this one. Coming into this one, BYU is favored by the lines in Las Vegas. Those lines have risen throughout the week, actually. They started, I believe, around 1.5 in BYU's favor. They've risen up to 3.5. So that's some good news, I guess. Ken Palm also favors BYU, but ESPN metrics do not. So that's the current situation kind of leading up to this Arizona game. Cougars so far only have one home loss, so definitely some hope in this one. They've done a really good job when they've been playing on their home court. So with the Marriott Senator Magic tonight, a really talented team, I think the Cougars have a real shot to pull this one off. Jumping ahead to Saturday a little bit, I believe this is the first opponent BYU this year this is their second matchup of the year, playing at Cincinnati now. Last time in Provo, not too long ago, Cougars blow out the Bearcats by 18. And since then, things have not been going too well with Cincinnati. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. They play tomorrow against UCF before they play against the Cougars. And so, yeah. And despite all that, Cincinnati is narrowly favored by ESPN metrics against the Cougars, which makes sense in a way. Big 12 road advantage is a real thing. And you know that the Bearcats are going to come out. They've definitely probably learned some things since their previous loss to the Cougars. And so expect to see some adjustments and expect to see a much closer game in this one. One thing to know about Cincinnati, one thing that in my opinion makes them dangerous, which of course they didn't, honestly, especially in the second half, they did not look very dangerous against the Cougars, is that for one thing, their scoring is very spread out, with their leading scorer scoring just about 12 points a game. So it's not any one guy specifically you can pin down and say, gotta stop this guy, gotta stop this guy. They got a lot of guys that are capable of scoring, so you just gotta make a real effort to just overall have everyone locked down. And in my opinion, if you can just go play a solid game, they should be able to beat Cincinnati. This is a team they've already beaten. I know it's on the road. It's going to be a tougher game. This is a game that I expect to be ending within single digits. But I think that if the Cougars just play a solid game, this is a team they should beat. Cincinnati, currently one of the bottom teams in the conference, only 2 wins in conference play so far, so I really think they should get this win. But moving forward, deciding factors for this week, I think that Let's see. Where did I put it? Oh, there we go, right there. For one thing, it's going to be transition defense like I talked about before. Arizona really good at getting out in the fast break, and in my opinion, in both games, this is going to be very important. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, turnovers are going to happen. Quick rebounds are going to happen. Teams are going to have a chance to run out against you. You just got to play real good, solid defense against that, because that's, at times, teams' easiest chances to get some free points out there. So I think it's going to be really important that the Cougars just lock in on that transition defense. That would take away one of Arizona's biggest strengths, as well as against Cincinnati. Would hopefully limit what their offense can do and give the Cougars a better chance to win. Now, on the offensive side of things, my deciding factor for the week is going to just be solid passing, plain and simple. Solid passing. That's one thing I've seen during this BYU win streak, is a lot of solid passing. Even when you got guys like Jaeger Demon and Dallin Hall, Trevin Nell, these typical, really good shooters who are also ball distributors. Even when they've had an off game, shooting wise, they've come through with lots of assists, lots of solid passes, and also as well, solid making sure you're making good passes also leads to less turnovers. And so, in my opinion, that's something that really helps this BYU offense, because you've got a lot of guys who are capable scorers. So if you're just passing the ball around, you're going to have a few guys that are going to be able to have a good scoring night every night, and just got to get them the ball, let them do their job, and the Cougars should be in a really solid place. So yeah, those are my two keys for the week. Two deciding factors. BYU men's basketball. And my bold prediction for this week, I guess that leads right into my overall prediction. I think the Cougars pull off the upset tonight against number 20 Arizona. I know this is a really tough game, but the Cougars have momentum. This is a home game. I think they got some things figured out, and yeah, that's my prediction. I think they're going 2-0 this week with that upset. I think tonight they win a close one. Something like a 2-3 point win in the end, maybe 4-5 or something if it comes down to a few extra free throws. So yeah, I think the Cougars pull off the win tonight, and then I think on the road at Cincinnati, I think they end up winning by a somewhat comfortable margin, but not too much, something like 6 to 9 points. Which overall would be very solid. Just kind of the way I see these two games for this week. For one thing, this BYU team is coming in 5th currently in the Big 12, so if they can stay at 5th, or at least in the area, or even move up to 4th, that would really help them in the tournament, because for one thing, that would give them an easiest first matchup, as well as then, let's just say, for example, if they are at the 5 seed, you're probably playing the easiest possible opponent. I believe that would be the 12 seed. Yeah, I believe they would be most likely to end up facing the 12 seed, whoever that be, in the Big 12 tournament. And then in the second round, you would be playing against the number 4 team, which currently would be Iowa State if the tournament were to start tomorrow. So really good opportunity for the Cougs if they're in that spot. So important to stay in that spot, as well as, in my opinion, even just winning one of these games this week should keep you on the right side of the bubble, but winning 2, in that case, you're probably jumping out of the first 4 in, and at that point, you can, going forward, just play for seeding, play to move up maybe to the 10, 8, 9, maybe even 7 seed line. So yeah, that's all that's on the line this week for them. I'm now jumping over to BYU men's volleyball. This week they have 2 matches at home against UC Santa Barbara. Another ranked opponent, like I said, number 15, and these are 2 matches. I feel fairly confident that the Cougars will win. I think it'll be really important. They're currently on a 4-match losing streak, albeit those 4 matches are all against teams ranked in the top 4, and 2 of them the Cougars took to 5 sets. But ultimately, I think it's going to be really important to pull off 2 wins this week. Just get back on the right foot. Prove to the voters of the polls that this team still is locked, and this team still is just as good as they were seen as earlier in the season. So yeah, two very important matches there. Now a little bit of BYU football. I know we don't talk a lot about them this time of year, but today's a special occasion with the schedule coming out. So the Cougars for next season will be playing against, and we already knew these non-conference matchups and when they were going to happen, but now we know the conference matchups in their order as well. So the Cougars will start the season with home games against Portland State and Stanford, followed by a bye, and then a road trip out to East Carolina, and then they'll open conference play at Colorado, and then after that they got a home game against West Virginia, then on the road against Arizona, home game against Utah, road against Iowa State, bye week Texas Tech on the road, TCU at home, Cincinnati on the road, and then they will end the season at home against UCF. First of all, things I like about the schedule. For one thing, I like just overall, I feel like with the opponents BYU is playing, they have a chance to make a decent resume to make the playoffs, even as an at-large, even if they do end up losing one of these games in conference play. I personally feel that the schedule has enough of these high-profile games for them to still make a national impression and to get into the playoffs. Also, I love how the season starts and ends at home. In my opinion, that's the way it should be. Open the season with some momentum with fans there, and then end the season with a home game. Let this, in my opinion, I don't know, it's always best to have Senior Day be the last game of the regular season. Kind of a nice send-off for the seniors as they then go into the postseason. So, with that being everything I like, there is a lot I do not like about the schedule. Starting off with the fact that the Utah game is in the middle of the season, in October, for goodness sakes. Like, in my opinion, this is not a good idea whatsoever. That game should always be towards the end of the season. That's where rivalry games belong. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a traditionalist. But yeah, I would really prefer if this game came later in the season. It just feels like it comes kind of in a weird time. And so, no, I get what the Big 12 is trying to do, trying to spread them throughout the season so that they get more attention and don't have to compete with some of the big rivalries in, per se, the Big 10, as well as the SEC. But still, BYU-Utah is the biggest rivalry in the Big 12, so I think it should be at the end of the season. Not happy about that, as well as, in my opinion, BYU's three toughest games, including that Holy War game, and then road games at Iowa State and Texas Tech, two teams that I think could be some of the top contenders for the Big 12 championship this year. Having those one after the other, albeit with a bye week in between Iowa State and Texas Tech, I think is really tough. Especially just considering for that Iowa State game, that'll be the sixth game in a row they will have played without a bye. And also fifth straight against a Power 5 opponent. Power 4. So, in my opinion, it doesn't set the Cougars up too well. If they are injured coming into that stretch, that really hurts. You might have critical guys who are missing all three of your most important games of the season. So I really don't like the idea of that. Also, just as a fan, I think it's a lot more fun to have them a little more spread out. Have the biggest games, I'd prefer if, one of these was in the first three, one was in the middle three, and then one was in the last three. I think, in my opinion, that would be a lot better. Ultimately, this is the way the schedule is drawn up. And the truth is, if BYU can come out of this 3-0 or 2-1, it'll probably mean they are in a pretty good standing for competing to go to the Big 12 title game. So, yeah, and like I talked about before, I would like these more spread out, especially for me. I think you want some really exciting games towards the end of your schedule. In my opinion, having your last two games be against Cincinnati and UCF, not the most exciting way to end the season. So yeah, overall, that's what I like about it, what I beef about it. Either way, I'm so excited for football season as well. Just looking at the schedule, we think we know right now. But there's probably going to be teams next year like Oklahoma State and Utah who we think are going to be good that are not going to be good. And then, there's going to be teams that are going to rise up and be harder than we thought. Maybe UCF ends up being a world beater. Who knows? But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Yeah. Cougs playing in about 40 minutes against the Wildcats of Arizona State. And yeah, so go Cougs.